All right, I am back. Um, as I shared, if you were on my previous stream, the only reason I'm live streaming is really to, because actually, and I do the video, and before I want to do a video, and then I would spend a lot of time perfecting it, and then it would never actually get uploaded. So this is the way we're doing it, and I'm sure I'll get better at it, and then we'll start editing things, and we'll go from there. So, um, okay, so part two. So I have ADHD. Several members of my family have ADHD. One of my family members actually said, like, everybody I know has ADHD. And I'm like, well, because it's hereditary. So and now, just can everybody have symptoms of ADHD? Absolutely. And yet the difference really is that it's, does those symptoms impact your everyday life in a negative way, right? So we're going to focus today on executive function, because this is really what makes ADHD, if you can, once you understand executive function, it explains, and you understand ADHD at a whole different level. So ADHD involves, it's so much more than not enough attention or too much hyperactivity. So ADHD affects many aspects of how you process information and managing the demands in your life, and not just in the ways that are obvious in a classroom. Like, a lot of times people think, well, we're just medicating people for school. Now, could that happen incorrectly? Sure. And yet, what we know is that ADHD doesn't just disappear when you walk out of school or you go or you graduate. Symptoms of ADHD are really the outcome of it's certain information processing weaknesses. So just like I'm somebody that wears contacts, so somebody wears contacts or glasses, in a classroom setting, I might need my glasses a little bit more than if I were, out and about. Now, with that said, it doesn't mean that I automatically can see better because I'm not in a classroom. No, it just maybe, there was a weakness and it showed up there more. It's kind of like, I might be able to walk around my house without my contacts or my glasses on, but you probably wouldn't want me to drive, right? It stays with you. And so it's just a weakness in our eyes, right? So ADHD is the same thing. Now, so specifically, ADHD involves weaknesses in a certain set of skills, and those skills are called executive functions. And so executive functions, they help you to focus attention, control emotions, set priorities, manage time, plan activities, stay organized, and improve memory. So the executive functions enable us to see beyond that current moment by bringing back the lessons from the past and bringing forward the goals to the future to better guide our behavior in the present. Yeah, it's kind of convoluted, right? And yet, basically, rather than respond automatically and thoughtlessly to whatever the environment throws at us, those of us, people maybe that don't have ADHD, or where we've trained or learned, when we use our executive function, we actually modify our thinking and behaviors in order to make the most of opportunities in both the short and long term. So executive functions enable us to resist distractions, temptations, and the most obvious aspects of a situation in order to consider and go for the greater gain. This shows up a lot in my family with the ADHD. Is like, we'll be talking about something, somebody will say something, and because we have completely forgotten the goal of what we were saying, or now we're starting to talk about something way over here, right? That's the ADHD showing up. That's one example of it. Now, once you understand executive functions and how they operate, a lot of things about ADHD starts making perfect sense, right? It's almost like, oh, this is what makes ADHD ADHD. Think about it. Have you ever wondered, how come some people with ADHD, maybe they tend to have certain symptoms and struggles, but not others, or why certain, time management and organizational strategies tend to work well for that person with ADHD, but not that one? or why some treatments are effective with ADHD and others aren't. So, like myself, I take medicine for ADHD. I know some people that medicine doesn't work for them. I know some people that the same medicine that I'm taking, if they take it, it doesn't work for them. Well, how come? Well, it's the executive functions. It's how my executive function with this symptom or this struggle impacts me, and how their executive function with this one or this one affects them. Right. So, it's the executive functions is why things show up that way. It also, when you look at executive function, it kind of explains why our past looks the way it does, and it offers real promise for making our future look better. That's exciting. And executive functions also have social implications. So, there is a significant price when people are weak in certain skills. You know, not just as kids, as teenagers, as adults. People that are weak in these executive functions, they struggle and they stand out. Maybe they have managing all the details of life and making responsible for choices, right? And a responsible choice in this, what I mean is, it would benefit the future more than the present. Some adults with untreated ADHD are seen as maybe irresponsible or immature. They may react too much in the moment and lose sight of the big picture. And then there's so it's how people see them. And then we talk about masking with ADHD. And so to mask or to show up in a way that the world, sees us responsible. If we're struggling with some of these pieces, time management or maybe our details, we struggle so hard to get it right that we use all of our willpower and all of our energy, and then we have none left at home, or none for left at, I know there have been times in my life where you have spent so much time at work and around people to doing what you're supposed to do as a responsible adult, that you come home and you don't have any energy to pick up that sock that's on the floor. It's simple. You don't have any energy to cook the food. Like, it's simple. I know how to do it. I'm smart. But just the energy is just gone, as we're zapped. And so these are some of the things when we look at executive functioning. And so, the executive function weaknesses involved in ADHD, that leads to symptoms that are, distractibility, forgetfulness, or impulsivity. So, I think about the impulsivity. If you've been in a conversation with someone that has ADHD, it's a learned skill, and I still tend to do it when I'm not masking. Is if you say something and I have a thought and then I say something. And so, interrupting people a lot, things like that, you have to learn how to handle that, because it's right. That lack of impulsivity. And yet now that we are talking about executive function, now that we see that it's the information processing functions that actually underline ADHD, that we can actually get to the root of the problem. So stay tuned for my next video, where I'm going to share ways to actually enhance your performance, because it does get better. It can get better. That is my time. Subscribe.